Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. My name's Cody, and this is the Far From OK podcast, episode 5. A couple weeks after the election, and the Steelers are playing the Shitbirds today, so we got a lot to talk about. I don't know if you guys watched that Tyson fight, but what the hell was that about? That was probably the most I'll ever pay for a Jake Paul fight, ever. And, man, it wasn't worth every penny. The undercards were great. Those girls really threw some hands. But, man, that was kind of rough to watch. God bless Mike, man. He got out there. Looked like he could have had him a couple times and kind of pulled back. I think he went like 3 rounds without even throwing a punch, it felt like. So that was pretty wild, man. But, yeah. Yeah, the thing about the Steelers and the Ravens, that's the kind of rivalry you want your team to be in all the time, because they're both quality teams with quality organizations. But, I just always had this feeling about Harbaugh versus Tomlin that they're polar opposites in one category. And to me, that would be that it seems like Tomlin can take any players on his roster and still have a winning season, go over 500 or whatever. Harbaugh seems to me to always be a product of having talent around him. He's just not the same as Tomlin is to me, and I think his smugness and his arrogance, just like Mike, but it bothers me a little bit. So we'll see what happens today, man. It's a big matchup. This is the first divisional game for the Steelers. After the bye week, we got Russell Wilson, we got Mike Williams now, and George Pickens as deep threats. Jaylen Warren is playing, even though he had back spasms, but I don't know. Sometimes I think that's a little bit of gamesmanship, so we'll see what happens, man. I got a good feeling about Pittsburgh in this game against their secondary. I think if our defense can stick Lamar in the pocket and kind of press him down a little bit, everything will be fine. I think if he gets out of the pocket and they use Derrick Henry and we can't get a lock on it, then it's going to be an issue. But we got E-Rob, man, Landon Roberts. Send the bullet train in there to stop whatever's coming through, so hopefully we come out on top, man. This would be a great way to start the divisional rounds for us, because we got just about every game coming up after that's going to be a divisional game. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes, man, and I don't know. I like it. But like I said, the Harbaugh thing, something about him, man. It seems, like I said, Tomlin put up a non-losing season with Duck Hodges at the helm. I mean, it seems like the guy can turn anything into at least a winning season. Harbaugh just seems like he's always had spectacular talent around him, and they've never quite got it done. Now, I could be putting my foot in my mouth later in this, and we could say, well, that didn't age well. But you know what I mean? It's a vibe. And I guess Todd Monken is under the impression that we've always little brothered the Ravens. I don't think it's been like that. I think back to Ryan Clark colliding with Willis McGahee. And to me, it's always been a mutual respect that you better strap up and put an extra chin strap down, because you're gonna be in for a battle. The Ohio teams that we have in our division a lot of years weren't respectable franchises, so it didn't really feel like you needed to get out of your comfort zone too much for that. But I always felt like Cleveland was irrelevant. The Bengals played dirty because they couldn't play good, and the Ravens and Steelers mirrored each other the most, and I think that there's been a mutual respect through that rivalry. And now it's a little better because Lamar is on fire. Now, I've never been a huge fan, but I do respect his talents. I see what he can do. We'll see what happens today, man. It's going to be good. It's going to be real good. I can hear Heinz Field from my house, so it's pretty cool. They were practicing this morning. I could hear everything, all the announcers and stuff like that, so it gives you chills. It's a pretty cool vibe around here today, so good luck. Let's get it. Let's go, Steeler Nation. Stand up, Yeah. So Pitt, on the other hand, that's a rough stop. Hopefully they can get it together, but I don't know what's going on. Pat Narduzzi is hilarious to me, too. Just about every interview, win, lose, or draw, he sounds like the guy in the movie that's trying to talk himself out of being executed by the mob or something. It's so hilarious to me to listen to him talk. And I mean, I think he's a good defensive mind, but I hope they can get it together, man. I would hate to think of Kenny Pickett as the last good year that this team really put up. So that'll be kind of fun to watch. And we know that the Penguins are just a nosedive. I mean, the biggest issue with the Penguins to me is that from day one, they have never tried to supplant their talent with protection or the type of defense that the team needs. You had an offensive team back whenever they went back to back. What was that, 15, 16? But whenever they went back to back, you had an offensive team with speed, and you don't have that anymore. Nor have you hired help or trusted help full time on the line to be able to protect your star players. So you got the big three, and then everything around them has just been band-aids. They've never taken a defensive approach to this game under Mike Sullivan, and I mean, his approach works when you have a younger roster that's young and has speed. But what you have now is you've got veterans with good savvy, if they can put it together, and you've done nothing to protect them. You know, Malkin shouldn't be out there, Crosby shouldn't be out there having to protect themselves. You know, that's insane to me. Every other team in the league has somebody out there to make sure that they enforce the intimidation factor on the other team. The Penguins just don't have it. They don't have the speed anymore. They're checking down way too much. The power play just refuses to get fixed. And then on top of all of the lack of defense, you have a goaltender that looks like Swiss cheese. I mean, it's rough. It's really rough watching this all go down. They say dynasties never end well, and I guess the Crosby era is playing itself out. The crazy part about that to me is it feels like Lemieux was pushed out by the Fenway Sports Group. So I'm wondering how much they actually even really regard this team the way that the fans in town do. Hockey's a hard enough sell as it is, so if you don't have a good product, it falls off fast. That and not being able to watch your local team on your local channel, I mean, that just kind of kills the game itself. So I mean, I guess when Lemieux originally had the team, it was all about not selling and getting it out of Pittsburgh, and hopefully, that's not something that's coming to a head here soon on the other side. But it's rough. It's hard to watch, I guess, when you can watch it, because I'm not doing all that with the apps. It's a little bit ridiculous. But yeah, it'll be cool, man. I love football season, and it's unlike the other two main affair sports that we see, like baseball and hockey. You have extended games throughout the season, so you have 80, you got 160 some games in baseball, and then you got 80 some games in hockey. So when I'm thinking about football, it's like in hockey and baseball, you have a few games, you got 10-15 game stretches where you can try guys out, you can try new things, put guys in different positions to try and get them to succeed and help out the franchise. But in football, man, it's like every game counts to some extent, especially when you start the divisional rounds. You don't get opportunities to just try guys out and then we can bounce back from it in the next 10-game series or something like that. This is all happening one at a time. You got 17 games, figure it out or get broke. So I'm curious how Russell Wilson's going to fare today against the Shitbirds. I can't think that we're just going to lay down and take this. I think Mike Tomlin gets in their heads for this game. So hopefully, Deontay Johnson can run it back in our end zone and drop everything else that he gets, and we can stay on top and stick them like glue, man, because I need to see Lamar get contained, and I need to see Lamar off his throwing game a little bit, and then we need to be able to jump in there and take it over. It's gonna be intense, man. Probably the best game all Sunday for anybody that's a part of this franchise or this rivalry or around here at all. I mean, you could say the same about Green Bay and Chicago, but that's more of an old rivalry. I'm not a big fan of Caleb Williams, so I'm really not going that route. But I think Chicago is just a bad franchise, and I think it doesn't really matter who you put there; they're going to struggle. And unfortunately, it's always the bad teams that get the top picks, right? So if you have a bad organization, look at Aaron Rodgers with the Jets right now. I mean, look at Chicago. These are just shitbird fans, not shitbird, but these are just shitty organizations overall. And that makes it tough for a young player to come in and develop underneath that. And then what they do is they knee-jerk and they pull their offensive coordinator and put somebody else in. So the kid's got to develop under 2-3 guys at a time under the first 2 years of his career, and then he's pretty much washed down. I mean, you saw what happens with Justin Fields. You saw what happened with a lot of these QBs that just come into bad situations and then never get off the ground. So it's cool. It's cool to watch, though. I mean, it's the NFL, right? They're always making their money. But yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit today is what Trump's doing as far as is what's happened within the first couple weeks since he got in office. It seems pretty incredible, or not in office. I'm sorry, since the first couple weeks that he was elected to be the future president again, 47. It's crazy to me the way that the rest of the world is responding to the election in America. Now, I talked about before in previous episodes how America kind of plays buffer to the good guys and the bad guys globally. That's, to me, in my opinion, that's a lot of what NATO is, outside of whatever dirty money goes on there. I think the idea of NATO as an entity is that we all pay to make sure that these guys got our backs, because we're landlocked with some of these insane nations and people that are really crazy. So it comes to a halt whenever America gets involved, and then we start backing whoever is fighting at the time. It seems to be that we're always the guys that jump in to stop the fight, or to level things out, level the playing field, as it were, a little bit. So what you do is you watch and monitor, and you try to get an idea through the actions of everything, the mood, I guess, around globally, the stock markets, everybody's conduct. Who's calling for peace? Who's calling for more BS? Who's trying to get back into the neutral zone to stop anything from happening ahead of time? And you got all these things happening. The stock market went up. The stock market and crypto went up at the same time. Now, when I was watching my crypto and the stock market under Joe the last 4 years, it was like one or the other was going up and the other was diving constantly. It was like they were constantly at odds. Now it looks like money's just looking good across the board, which I don't know how you argue with that. It looks like opportunities around. I was driving through some areas yesterday where I was talking to my wife about this whole thing out here in areas of PA where there used to be industry that's gone, and now these towns are kind of just desolate, and people live there because they have to, because they can't get out and they have no opportunities there. You have areas that really struggle, like McKeesport, Monaca, Braddock, just around the city areas. They used to be big because of the steel mills, and now with all that stuff having the manufacturing being pushed overseas and stuff like that, these things are just hollow shells of themselves. So the history's there, but there's nobody to even carry on, any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Any kind of real structured economies around these areas. Now, hopefully, what we were talking about yesterday is hopefully eventually what will happen is we'll get some manufacturing back, and a lot of this stuff's already in place. So jobs could be coming to a place near you, and you don't necessarily have to be union to get in, and that would be good for local economies. I think the biggest problem with the generational direction that things are headed is there's just no real skill sets being passed down. People don't know how to do as much anymore. They don't know how to carry themselves. They don't know how to build things. They don't know how to fix things. If they have enough money, they know how to pay somebody else to do it. But a lot of times people just don't even know how to do things because they're not taught that. Nobody teaches them. So hopefully this will bring back some type of economy into these areas that previously had a lot of it, and they're probably still set up to fund some economy as long as it can be brought back to them. And it's crazy. I'm watching the economy and the stocks and all the predicative signs that you're looking at are telling you that this is good. This is going to be good for money. This is going to be good globally. People are going to have to come into this and play ball. You're not going to get anybody that's going to monopolize anything globally. You're not going to have anybody trying to get over. And I just think that it's a good sign of things to come, basically. Now, as far as what he's done, within his staff, I really don't have a problem with most of it. I think Homan's going to be a beast as a border czar, and he's not going to deny that he's the border czar, because there ain't going to be any problems by the time he's done with it, as long as he gets what he needs to. There's that's crazy about Homan is he's very no nonsense, and unfortunately, he's done things that they've held against him and tried. I heard an interview, or not an interview, but he was being questioned by AOC, and she was accusing him of separating families, and he brought up a good point. He said, if I pull over a father that's got a child in the car and he's DUI, I'm separating him from his family. If I go to a house for domestic abuse and I arrest that guy, I'm separating him from his family. So the idea in the context of what's actually happening versus what the portrayal of this narrative is completely different. And the other part about it is, this guy's going to get a lock on it. They're going after the criminals first, man. They might not even be done cycling through that by the time Trump's terms is up. His first term is up, and then hopefully we'll be looking at JD for whatever reason. But the idea that he's just going to go separate kids and mothers and stuff like that is insane to me. I can't believe that they really do try to play in this realm where they think that they can just spin the narrative and then get people so afraid of what's going to happen. It seemed like Trump got a lot of Latino support. So it's kind of funny to me because I don't think anybody bought their BS at that point, right? I mean, you're looking at all the stories and narratives that they spun, and now, I mean, this was a definitive victory, probably one of the strongest victories for a presidential election in a while. I haven't really looked up the actual numbers on it, but I'm sure in a while this was a pretty defeating result. And now the liberals are coming out and calling everybody misogynist and racist, and it's okay to be racist in America. Anything but being accountable for the fact that all you did was spin hate the whole time and actually get people to vote the opposite direction. All you did was encourage somebody to go take a shot at him and get people to vote against you at the election. And then all you did was put out lawfare against him through different areas that he lived in New York City, with everything going on there, down in Georgia and Florida issues, and that put people on his side. So all you did was help him get elected, and now you're turning around and condescending to everybody. It's crazy to me. And what's going to be good is as this whole thing gets corrected and we get all this back, and we can get our border secure, and we can start to get fundamentally correct again. I know I went off a little bit, but as we can fundamentally start to get things figured out again, we're gonna reset all that, and there's not gonna be any of that mentality anymore because it's gonna be filtered back out. People know that that's poison now. No matter how it sounds, or no matter how nice you try to pretty it up, you don't have to call them illegal immigrants. It still is what it is, and we're just getting back to the things that were already here. Like I said, I said it before. I don't remember there being a border issue under not even Trump, Barack Obama. I don't remember it being an issue like this. So yeah, it's fundamentally Todd Holman is going to be an awesome pick for the position that he's getting put into. I like the Pete Hegseth thing. If you don't know who he is or what he's about, then it's understandable that this kind of comes across a little bit far reaching, but Hegseth is he's dedicated military, he's dedicated to country and family and God, and that's about it. I don't know that I've ever gotten anything from him that's told me otherwise. And I would hope if he's going to be the defense secretary, you're going to get people like Dan Bongino and some other heads involved just as advisors, so that you can really take a strong look at or take a hard look at strength and see how it needs to be applied and when and where things need to happen. I mean, these are guys that were able to sit in their living room and know everything that went wrong with the assassination attempt in Butler before it happened. So these guys already have, they have all the knowledge, they have all the know-how. They can put things together before it even happens, and they can see the problems as they come up, and they're not going to be surprised or fooled by anything, and they're not going to let the American people be put in jeopardy because of it. So I like the Pete Hegseth pickup. Always comes across as very stand-up. Just a very, what's the word? He's a patriot. He's a good guy, patriot. I'm good with that. The Elon Musk thing and the Ramaswamy thing. Vivek Ramaswamy is kind of popped up out of nowhere to me, but he is very charismatic and he's very intelligent. So it's hard for me to think that there wouldn't be a better place for him to be rather than basically auditing the federal government and finding out what we can get rid of. Elon Musk said he can get rid of $2 trillion in federal spending. If there's anything that's a bigger enemy to the taxpayer, it's federal spending, because people that don't use certain federal programs pay into federal programs for people that don't pay into them. So the entire federal government is predicated on people needing it. So they create jobs for people that are close to them to nepotize the entire system, I guess. And this has been something that I've believed for a long time. They nepotize the entire system. They create extra jobs. They give themselves raises, and then they decide if there's anything left for the public. And what they like to do before they get to the public is decide what government applications they can put the money into, like whether it's housing or whether it's welfare system setups, or whether it's grants and loans that are developed for people that need assistance. They decide where that money goes, and then if there's anything left over, the taxpayer gets anything back in the form of, I don't know, public safety, infrastructure, anything that we would be able to do. But what happens is all that money has to trickle through everybody's pocket and each individual department that they want to allocate funds to. When you have housing and things like this, you have government budgets that need to be allocated. They're not going to allocate as much money for budgets if they got people on their feet moving out of housing. That's not the way it's designed. It's a trap. It's designed to keep people there and keep the doors and keep each unit full so that they can justify having more money. This is what they do. And then they get people, they create positions, and then they get people jobs that are friends or family or something like that. And it goes even further down the line where I've, for a long time, I believe the unions are just money filters for the Democrats. That's why they voted Democrat all the time, because the unions were supplied all this infrastructure money, or all these contracts go to unions from the government, from federal spending. And then, you're not getting, to say what you want about unions, you're not always getting the best quality work, but it's just a pandered to vote that gets paid in return. And it's not the union employee that's making all this money. This is more about the actual union stewards that are pushing for this stuff and trying to get, making sure that everybody votes the right way so that they can get the kickbacks later on. They make a lot of money to do all this politicking and all this BS, but really what happens is it's all pandered to. So, You get in and you figure out why federal spending is at an all-time high. If you can get $2 trillion out of 7 out of the way, I mean, that's a pretty big hit, So there's so many ways in which money is filtered through the federal government. You got to find what's working and what's not, what's been inflated, what hasn't. And I don't know that there's two better people to deal with that than Musk and Ramaswamy. I mean, you look at what Musk did to Twitter. Twitter was just wallowing in its own filth at one point, and then he brought back free speech, and he brought back all this stuff. He laid off a bunch of people that didn't feel like coming to work, and I mean, he's doing things in the past to let you know that he can take care of what's ahead of us. So I think that's a great pickup. Marco Rubio has really kind of stepped out on top since, as far as Secretary of State, he's not already being there, but I think Marco Rubio as a politician and as a human being has stepped up since Trump kind of, belittled everybody in his first run of president. I think Marco Rubio, along with Ted Cruz and a couple other people, have really stepped up after Trump's first 4 years, and they've really kind of taken a hold of controlling the Republican Party and keeping everybody in the gear that, hey, we're going to support this guy because he's still the guy for us. And they've all stuck by him, and they've done their best to garner support for him. And I think that Marco Rubio is a lot more. He's got a lot more backbone. I think he's got a lot thicker skin now, and I think he's more assertive than he was back then. And I think that's probably a good choice. The Matt Gaetz thing, I don't get. I don't really like the guy. He seems like somebody that gets in and then blows the whole thing up, right? I mean, he did it with McCarthy, but he's got a lot of things going on with the allegations of sexual misconduct and things like that. And I think putting him in the position of Attorney General puts him in, basically, he's got his own case file in his hand at whatever point he wants it, and he can burn it down. I don't understand it. I think Trump knows that he's going to get backlash on that. I think Trump knows that it's not going to be passed. I don't know what his other options are. I don't know if this is a serious option or if he told Gaetz, hey, man, we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. I don't like Gaetz. I just don't trust the guy. He seems like the quintessential fox in the hen house. And a guy like that is dangerous, especially whenever he's looking to make gains off of your own, your downfall. I would hate to see somebody like him get close to the administration or be close in the administration and then blow things up, or him be able to sidestep any kind of culpability that he would have for whatever he's got going on, and then be able to bounce back from that because he's now kind of overseeing his own case. And I think there's a conflict of interest almost there, and I know Trump's going to get a lot of pushback on that. I don't understand. I don't even think the Republicans would vote him in, let alone get full support or enough support from both sides for it to be passed through. So I don't know what the idea is there. I just know that I'm not a fan of his. He's not somebody that I look at and I feel is trustworthy. He's 27 years old. He's caused a lot of noise recently, and for me, it just screams snake. It's just something about it is dirty. I don't know what it is, and I don't know that Trump's on the end of it. I think he's trying to appoint a bunch of strong, smart people. He's trying to get everybody in there that he thinks is going to do the best possible job. He needs people that have backbone and thick skin and are willing to be assertive when necessary. I just don't know what the deal with Matt Gaetz is. Something's there. Either Gaetz is trying, it feels like, and I'm not saying, it just feels like maybe Gaetz is trying to get out of something, or he's trying to sidestep something. But it also feels, whenever he went after McCarthy, now I like Mike Johnson, so I don't really have a problem with how it turned out, but I didn't like the way he went after McCarthy. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I do know, I'm pretty sure in saying that Gaetz will not be the next Attorney General, because I don't think that anybody's going to let it through. I just don't understand what the push to pick him was, because it seems kind of detrimental to the cabinet. It doesn't seem like something that people are really going to be impressed by. So I don't know. I think they probably should have pulled off of that, but maybe there was talks, behind closed doors. Look, we need your support, blah, blah, blah. We'll see what we can do, but nothing's guaranteed, whatever. But I think the Attorney General is a pretty important position to have somebody go all willy-nilly and just be like, hey, man, here you go. Here's a hand-down. So I'd like to know more about exactly what exactly the story is behind that, or why Gaetz was appointed or nominated for that. And then, the thing with RFK. Now, it's funny to me. He's a Kennedy. He's probably in the best shape out of most 60-year-old guys that you ever seen. I'd say he could go push-up for push-up with fucking Vladimir Putin. And, they want to talk bad. The first thing that NBC News wanted to say about him was he was an anti-vaxxer. Well, that's cool. That's not really the point, is it? This guy's going to go after everything that's poisoning our kids and creating cancer in our society and get us back to being healthy again. We have some of the best Medicare or medical systems in the world in the U.S. Yet we have one of the sickest nations, and it's crazy because it's been in front of us the whole time. The Food and Drug Administration. So the food makes you sick, the drugs keep you sick, and then everybody's making money back at the office at the same table. So it's good. I think it's good that somebody's going to get in and stir it up. I mean, have you seen this guy? This guy is ripped for his age. I don't know. I think I would rather have that than what was that thing that they hired from PA to be in charge of anything in Biden's cabinet. I as far as foods and nutrition and being healthy, wouldn't you want a guy that's actively healthy and living a healthy lifestyle to be in charge of that? I mean, I'm not saying he should come in and be a drill sergeant, but the school lunches, I mean, everything is going to improve under him if he has the opportunity. Now, the vaccination thing is, I don't think that it's as I don't think it's as black and white as people made it out to be whenever it was brought up before. But I have no problem with RFK taking a look at what's wrong with the food in this country that's creating a lot of things. I get snacks from other countries sometimes, and those snack crates or whatever. My girl got them for me a lot of times, and it was crazy. The same company, Lay's potato chips, will have about 15 less ingredients overseas than they do here. And you're looking at the high fructose corn syrup, you're looking at the margarine stuff, you're looking at all these things that have been poisoned, the food colorings that are totally unnecessary. We get rid of all that. These kids are living better, healthier lives. The boys are going to be strong again. It's just going to work out better. The girls aren't going to have problems when they're young. They're going to evolve the way they're supposed to. We take the antibiotics out of the meats. We start living a little bit more natural, a little bit more smart, a little more intelligent on how you eat. And I don't know. I don't think it's really a bad idea for the guy to open everything up and say how much is being wasted here and how much have we been hurting everybody. It's I don't know. if you got a problem with RFK, then maybe that's your own issue. But as far as what they want him to do, and you look at his physical appearance and the way that he takes care of himself, I just can't see why that would be a negative thing for anybody to kind of take a look at. Versus what was that, Dr. Levine or whatever. Just I think it's a good pick. I don't know, but yeah, man, that's kind of the whole scope I have on everything. I know things are developing with his nominations, but I think that I think there's a lot to be had there, man. It seems like there's a lot of meat on the bone for people that want to do the right thing in there, and I think that he's set up a lot of good foundational pieces for this. So hopefully the good hires keep coming, and all the DEI hires can go home and quit worrying about, shaving their heads and bull ringing their nose and stuff like that. And we can finally get back to a little bit of common sense attitude, and we can start giving it to the other guys. I have no problem with tariffs. I think tariffs are great. People think that tariffs are going to raise prices on us or something like that. No, what it's going to do is make things undesirable from other countries. They're going to want to build here, so they're going to manufacture here. That means you go get a job at a factory somewhere building Chinese stuff instead of Chinese people building U.S. stuff and then shipping it back here, and then we're paying for that. This is the way it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be a dominant powerhouse. We're way too big, and we play way too big of a role in the rest of the world to sit back and wipe our asses with burlap sacks and act like everything's got to be green all the time. If you look at the rest of the world, we're so far from being a contributor to pollution or any kind of greenhouse effects or anything like that. Trust me, the planet's going to be fine. The planet is going to take care of itself like it always has. We're just these little things on the surface. And these people want us to shut down every bit of manufacturing just to suit that. It's insane. You have to let people live. You have to let them be fruitful in a good economy. You have to let them provide for themselves, and you cannot keep everybody on the government tit. So that's kind of where I sit with it, and I think that's exactly the cabinet that he's setting up is going to provide opportunity for people, and it's going to take away from the people that aren't trying at all. The other side preaches equality all the time. Well, you only get equality when everybody's putting in the same effort. So that's when we can start talking about that stuff. And, I guess we'll just have to see what happens, how much pushback he's going to get and all that. But right now it looks like he's got some good pieces in there, and the rest, can kind of be supplemented as we go along. But how about the Tyson fight, man? I think somebody definitely had a little bit going on there that was behind the scenes. It just felt like there was opportunities. It felt like nothing was done for like 4 or 5 rounds. It was an awful fight to watch. It was worth every penny that I paid for it. And I'm just completely still unimpressed by Jake Paul, man. It's crazy. You go from Disney and then you go to YouTube and then you become a boxer, and that's cool. I'm not saying he doesn't have any skills or anything, but what I am saying is Floyd Mayweather had a very, very, to the later end of his career, he had a very, very similar business model where he would go against people that were either out of their zone, out of their time limit, out of their age group, coming. He would get guys that were just a little bit off of their prime, off of their game, and then he would take advantage of that, and then everything would be a fight. And then the last few fights he's done, they've all been staged, right? We know that Mayweather basically pays for wins. Guys that aren't going to beat him, they know they're not going to beat him. The draw is so big, the numbers are so big, blah, 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 blah. That's cool. Paul's doing the same thing. And he had the money to start up his own. So it's like, it's hard for me to eat that, right? Like a lot of us don't have the startup to be MVP or whatever, do all that, and then walk around and swing dick at the UFC and swing dick at the boxing industry and stuff like that. Not everybody's built like that. Some of these kids are boxing better than he'll ever box, and they're sitting in a gym somewhere in the inner city. They'll never see it, So the whole Paul thing, it's just not really my taste. But I watched it because I wanted to see Mike, and it looked like Mike's bottom half gave up on him, halfway through. So I felt bad for him, but at the same end, I mean, he went in there, and I think he could have put it together to take Paul down. I definitely think that there was a little bit of a restraint in there. So unimpressed. The undercards were great. I mean, they got better as we were leading up to the fight, and then that was just a big dud. Like fireworks. The last one just falls on the ground and goes, But it was cool to see Tyson get out there. I felt bad for him by the end of it because it was kind of a spectacle, but that's probably it for him. Probably should be, but it was just a little bit of history, a little bit of nostalgia coming back, and I don't know, man. I hope everybody enjoys some Steelers beating the Shitbirds today. Who knows? Maybe not. We'll see how Lamar gets down. I know I can hear the stadium from my house, so we are 35 minutes into this thing. So I appreciate you guys sticking with it, man. I hope you enjoyed something a little different than just politics. I'm just trying to kind of build up the whole thing and try and expand a little bit of topics. Now that the election's done, we don't have to talk about that every day anymore. So I hope you guys are having a good weekend. I hope you enjoy your football. If you got your DraftKings lineups out there, I hope you hit on all of them. And, check us out on YouTube at the Far From Okay podcast. And we're on Rumble too, but YouTube's kind of the easier one to get to at this point. And we will have new shorts up, and we'll be talking to you guys soon. I hope you guys stay blessed. And, yeah, that's it. Have a good one.